Good morning, good morning. So the handouts are the resources for you to take afterwards. So no worries. It's not something that we're necessarily going to go through together here. So it's just something so that when you leave here today, you're leaving with something that's tangible, so that way you can continue to make an impact in your community. I am mic'd, but I'm mic'd more for the sound of the recording, but I can project. Because one of the things about me is that I went to Pine Forge Academy, and I was a part of creative arts. Hello. All right, hello. And in creative arts, we learned how to project. Okay? You all see them traveling around. That used to be me. Okay? And so I will definitely use my projection to make sure that you can hear about this wonderful information. He introduced me some, but just so that you know, my name is Sharday Hollins. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I come from the blood, sweat, and tears of Pastor Jerome Hurst, who really set the stage for the work that I do today in mental health and in the community. And so you can see my beautiful family here. I have one husband, one daughter, one son. Me and my husband, we met in actually the first time that I ever attended a non-Adventist school. He holds that over my head. I just want to let you know, okay? He's like, the one time, and look what God gave you. I said, look at him. So what happened is I got my master's, and we met at Cleveland State University. He's also a social worker, so we met in class. And so he also has to attend some of my sessions in order for us to get continuing education credits. So the first time he saw this, right, while he's like online with 300 other people, he sends me a text like, why do you have one husband? I said, first of all, silent. I'm live right now. But afterwards I said, in case it changes, at least you know, honey. Like, I put it up there. You have one son, one daughter, one husband. We're on the same page. And so I am proud to know that I have entered to learn and depart to serve from Oakwood University. Yes. I also went to Rhema Junior Academy, which is in Cleveland, Ohio, which is also an Adventist and Black school that really was able to really train me and give me the individuality, but yet the confidence I needed to walk into a world that didn't always look like me, right? And so very, very proud of where the education that I've received and the family that I come from, which has led to me being able to have practice and experience multiple places. So one of the reasons why I went into social work is because I didn't want to go back to school. I'll talk to somebody about that later, right? But I knew I wanted to do a lot of things. And with social work, I was able to transition into a lot of different spaces. So I've worked in the school system, hospital, corrections. I've worked in courts with juvenile justice as well as adult justice, and as well as grant management and community, where I was able to oversee the suicide prevention campaigns and councils for our county, which is the second largest county in Ohio. And through initiatives like this, we are really able to talk, educate, and promote what it means to have suicide awareness. And so we're here today because one of the things that you recognize is that suicide prevention, suicide awareness, mental health is not just for a clinician. It's not just for a therapist. It's not just for a psychiatrist. It is literally everyone's business. And I learned that at an early age when I realized coming out of this space, having my degree from Oakwood, being so eager to save the world. I'm entered to learn, depart to serve, where excellence is no accident. I know all my mottos, okay? And I live them, I breathe them. I walk in the room ready for them. And I also had to realize that no matter what degree I had, no matter what certification I had, no matter how much I prayed, no matter how many scriptures I knew, no matter if I was an elder, deacon, pastor, reverend, whatever name we want, the community in which we really want to make an impact in, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. When I train and talk to clinicians and people in the community, we talk about it more on a clinical level, as far as our masters, our bachelors, our certifications. But it's the same concept in the church. No one wants to hear about the scripture. No one wants to hear about prophecy. No one wants to hear about the second coming or whatever it is that we know is truth about the Word of God, unless we can first show them the love of God. And so in the same concept, it is important that as a church, we first have to identify with our why. everything starts with your why. So I want to hear your why. I want, if anyone can think about, your why could be a variety of reasons, or you can take the question how you wish. Some of your why may be simply why you chose this specific training. Your why could be why you chose to even come to this conference. Why do you choose to do the work that you do in the community through your church? What is your why on why you are committed to making sure that church is beyond the walls? Anybody? Can I get 2 people? Come on, come on. We're here for an hour and a half. I got to take a water break already. Go ahead. Thank you, ma'am. What's your why?
I have several whys, but one of them is that.
First, I'm sorry. Can you tell me your name and where you're from?
My name, Dallas City Temple is my.
Okay, Dallas City. Okay.
Here's my why. Got several, but here's one. I had suicide in my family as a teenager. My Aunt Lois, who was the life of the party, she didn't have the determinants of health. She had a good husband, they had some money, whatever. Killed herself when I was like 15, something like that. And I didn't get that. So we've got that in my family. That's one why. Number 2, our church was funded with a Hall Foundation grant to help teenagers.
I like grants.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
You know it.
Teenagers with suicide, depression, etc. And so as part of that grant, we had to talk about and get input from youngsters in our communities and our churches to talk about this. And we're making a short film, a movie about it.
I love that.
So this is a conversation that's going on in the community that's relevant to our church. And like I said, it was in my family. So
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. Very relevant. Yes.
My name is Chineri Sampson. I'm from Jackson, Michigan. Basically, my why is that I'm too a clinician. I'm an LPC, so counselor. And I believe my church and the community as a whole needs to learn more about mental health, especially suicide, because of course,
Beautiful.
as Black people, we've been told, oh, you keep pushing, it doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. And when you get told that so much, it becomes ingrained in you. So I think a lot of the path to basically well-being is education about yourself and more education about how you can be a better self through healing, through coping skills and things like that. So that's why I'm here.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And continue the great work, my fellow clinician. One more. Come on. One more brave soul. The Trinity is 3. Today we will have 3. Let's go. Thank you. Let's go.
Hi, I'm not going to stand.
You're fine.
My name is Rosalie Van Putten from New York. And we had a young man in my church who tried to commit suicide. And the church did not know how to respond to him. So all they did was call him to the front to pray for him.
Bless the Lord.
And I didn't know what to do for him. I joined him in the front because I did not think that was the right thing. But I'm hoping that I can get some tools to help, because I've known other people in my life. When I was at Loma Linda, there were students who committed suicide. I remember one Friday when a student found out that his father had committed suicide. And again, didn't know how to react.
Yeah.
How to respond, how to be
Supportive.
of some help.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Yes. And the thing about it is, we could get into a lot of deep jargon about suicide prevention. We can get into a lot of specific situations on to handle it. But there's 2 things we're going to do today. One, we're going to do breadth versus depth. Okay? So when you do something that is breadth, meaning, I have a hard time saying that word every time. Can y'all tell? I practice. It doesn't work. When you learned how to read, they taught you how to sound things out. They taught you the core principles of matters, which means if you were to come across a new word today, do you have to go back to school? You're going to figure it out, because you've been given the breadth of Hooked on Phonics, but not the depth of every single word. You see, a lot of times in the community, in the church, we get so bogged down into depth. Well, how do I do this? How do I do that? What about this? What about that? It's about principle. It's about understanding concepts, understanding love, understanding Christ in a way that regardless of the situation, you have been provided the tools and at least the resources and concepts to figure it out. Now, I might say, a word this way in the American English, and somebody else might say it in the British English. But at the end of the day, we know what we're talking about. It might have a different accent, but we know what we're saying. And that is the concept of ministry, first of all. So many times we get caught up in the fact of how someone is doing ministry, when at the end of the day, the result is the same. Lives are changed. So the question is not, how can I make somebody learn my accent? How can I make sure somebody understands in which the way I get to how 2 + 2 = 4? The question is, do they know that 2 + 2 is 4? And do they understand what I just said? And when we start asking ourselves those questions, a lot of this tit for tat that we got going on here is going to go away. Because we understand what hooked on phonics for Jesus is like. All right? So we're going to do some hooked on phonics for suicide prevention. I'm not about to answer all the questions, and y'all can get every single thing in an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes. But we're going to talk about just some core concepts of how you can make sure you're making an impact in your community and you're aware. The first thing is that you need to realize that Jesus is real and therapy is biblical. There is instances in the Bible themselves that talk about mental health and suicide. Scripture. And so the first thing we must not do is shy away from it, because Jesus didn't. Way back when, before we even knew these words, these terms, these situations, we had people who we preach about, teach about, wanting to die. People just talk about Job. We know the story of Job. But Elijah felt the same way. At some point in time, I don't care what nobody say, but Esther wanted to die. I wish you would tell me I got to stand in front of this man. She had anxiety. She went through depression. She had a weight on her shoulder. But yet when we preach the word of God and we're telling these stories, we tell the stories as though they are heroes and not humans. So therefore, we're living in a Christian life and experience where we feel like we have to be heroes instead of humans. And we only speak to the hero. We only serve the hero. Therefore, when we're going through a human moment, all of a sudden we don't know how to help. We just bring them to the altar so we can pray. I am so sorry, the hero in you is distraught. Come on, come on. No. The hero in me is a mask. The hero in all of our biblical characters were masks. David was crazy. It was a mask. Esther was terrified. It was a mask. But yet we only speak to the hero. And that is the first thing we have to change when we're talking about what suicide prevention is. We have to recognize that mental health is real. And mental health is physical health. If you break your arm, if somebody fall right now and break their leg, ain't nobody about to laugh at them if they go to the doctor. Be like, oh, you just need to suck that. Let me pray over that broken leg. I see the bone, but hold on, let me pray. We're going to be like, someone, come on, Stop this. We're going to pray that the doctors are anointed to bless the leg. We're going to pray that she has a quick recovery. We're going to pray that all else goes well as she moves and does the things she needs to do. But what we're also going to do is recognize the pain and make sure that someone who is here on earth, skilled, talented, with the profession, is there to help and address the pain. But yet, when it comes to mental health, that's not the case. It must be a demon. It must be a spirit. You must be mad. You must be bad. When we talk about what trauma is, oftentimes people are thinking these big sense of a word, but the best definition I've heard about trauma is an emotional wound. Best definition, because it finally gives you something to touch. Think about what happens when you have a wound. You can have several different layers of a wound. How many of you guys have ever had a paper cut? That thing is small but deadly. Oh, that thing is small but deadly. And we're walking around here wondering, why are they overreacting? It wasn't even that serious. You ever had a paper cut? That's a wound. Small and deadly. What they went through in their life to you, small but deadly. You ever had an internal wound, internal bleeding, where people can't see the pain that you're going through, but there is a wound? Trauma is an emotional wound. And so because we know in the community, specifically in the church, that all of us, we love to say in the church, we a hospital. We all can agree that we a hospital. Well, if we a hospital, that means everybody wounded. I don't know where your wound is. You don't know where my wound is, so I ain't about to touch you wrong. You ain't going to touch me wrong. But we don't do that in real life. We just go around touching people not knowing what hurts. Like, And so part of suicide prevention is recognizing that not everyone has a mental illness, but everyone has mental health. Oh, come on now, because y'all be diagnosing people every day. Let's talk about it. When we talk about, when we talk about that, right, I do this all the time, but that's why it's my slides, because I can't, okay? So when we talk about what suicide prevention is, and when we talk about what mental health is, right, we need to understand that it's a continuum. We're going to stay right here so I can really get this in before we go. So I want us to be on the same page of understanding mental illness versus mental health. We all have mental health. Amen. Not everybody is mentally ill. Let me tell you how. When you go to the doctor and you talk about physical health, you talk about eye health, dental health. Don't nobody think about dental illness. Nobody think about eye illness, physical illness. But when you talk about mental health, the first thing that comes to your mind is mental illness. Whatever you're looking for, you will find. So the first thing is to understand that happiness is mental health. Joy is mental health. When I ask people about when is the first time you recognize mental health or you recognize like what it is the most traumatic experience that's ever happened in their life. And I'm like, oh God, that's the first time you had an emotion? You mean you wasn't happy at your 5th birthday party first? You weren't excited first. You weren't surprised first. That's mental health. But the first thought was something that could have caused an illness. And so when I talk to clinicians, when I talk to those who are actually a part of the work, we stay on that thing and figure out how we have supported that narrative and what we need to do to shift that, right? But what I want us to do in this space is recognize that how we have supported the narrative within the faith perspective. And that many of the things that we do or that we don't talk about is because we're so busy trying to shun the human and only see the hero. See, people see what it is that they want to see. As a clinician, I'm going to see the human because that's how I build. That's what I've been taught to do. I've been taught to diagnose. But you are a child of God. You see the best of everyone. So you've been trained to see the hero. And both need to come together in order for prevention, awareness, and true equitable access and success to happen. Does that make sense? If you're with me, say here. All right. So now we're talking about mental health continuum because we're going to get on the same page. And I'm going to tell y'all to stop. Listen. Healthy mental health continuum means that you have normal fluctuations in a mood. It is okay. I don't know about you, Have you ever had to use the bathroom while you're giving a presentation? Just wondering if you can make it. Do you know the levels of anxiety that happen? We'd be like, all right, you better stop drinking that water. But your mouth's thirsty. You're like, well, I want to. Levels and fluctuation of mood. You ever been late trying to get somewhere? Kids won't hurry up. It's the one day like, Traffic, somebody cut you up, fluctuation of mood. You're still healthy. Because what do you need to do in those moments? You have the tools in order to cope. You have the tools in order to be able to calm yourself down and figure out that this ain't the end. You can hold your bladder. You've done it before. You birthed 2 children. You can get through this. All right. But then we move to reacting. Listen, 99.9% of us live in the reacting phase. And in the reacting phase, you have nervousness, irritability, sadness, trouble sleeping, tired, low energy, headaches, procrastination. Why we got stuck in traffic and rushing in the first place. Decreased social activity. And when we get to the reacting phase, these are the things that we need to do in order to move past that back to healthy. There's still 2 other phases before we get to illness. And y'all done diagnosed people right here. I'm like, Lord, what is going on here? You with me, clinician? I know you're just like, yeah. So we get to injured, right? So we're past this phase, and then it really starts getting somewhere, right? We're getting to the anxiety, the anger, the pervasive sadness, the hopelessness. See, when you're injured, you're just annoyed. You're irritated. You're frustrated. You're angry. You're just like, You're short-tempered. But you're not hopeless. You're not hopeless. Because I'm running late, I'm not hopeless. So we do these things, fatigue, and then in order to make sure that we can either move back to the further phase, we want to make sure we identify and understand our own signs and symptoms of stress. We make sure we're talking to someone. We seek help. We seek social support instead of withdrawing. And then we get to ill, all the way down the road there. Excessive anxiety, easily enraged, depressed mood, unable to fall or stay asleep, exhaustion, physical illness, unable to perform, and so forth. And we want to make sure that people are getting the help that they need. But this is what I want you to understand when we talk about the difference between mental health and all the other healths. I have an eye illness. But even in illness, I can be healthy if I know how to manage it. Hello to my all eye illness people out there. But no one thinks about it that way. You never thought you had an eye illness, but technically you do. But even in illness, even people who have been diagnosed with mental illness can still live a healthy life when provided the tools, the resources, and the support to move forward. So there is still life and life abundantly with these things that now we're working with them to make sure that they can stay on this continuum with the support. But if all we're doing is praying, I still can't see. If all we're doing is saying, let's do some Bible studies, I can hear you, but I can't see. So let's make sure we work with our communities to be able to see. If you got an eye illness, say, hey, all right. Oh, my eye illness. People out there, and the ones who got contacts, you don't want us to know, but I see you. I see you. Don't try to act like you don't know. So when we talk about what suicide prevention is the ability to empower someone with overwhelming hope and support while they are in a difficult situation. We're going to make it plain. Period. That's it. It is everyone's business. Everyone. Not just a clinician, not just their parents, not even just their immediate circle. It is everyone's business, from media to pastor, to mom, to dad, to teacher, to acquaintance, to children in school. It is everyone's business when it comes to suicide prevention. And when we talk about stigma and breaking that, we need to understand that you can say the word. I want everybody on the count of 3 to say suicide. Okay, y'all did it. It just wasn't on the count of 3, but I'll take it because it's breadth, not depth. We got it, right? But that's it. We were scared to say the word. Like we're going to plant it in somebody's head. They already thought about it. Just like you already thought about sex before they said it in church. Oh, them millennials just be talking. But it's true. Suicide. You can talk about suicide, and you should. Why? Because it actually reduces the fact that they may actually die by suicide. Because it allows individuals to seek help. It allows them to know someone actually sees me. Oh, you can actually tell that I've been wearing a mask? Wow. And not only can you tell, but you cared enough to not want to help me cover up. So now, not only do I not have to pretend, you're actually letting me know, like, yeah, you're good. You're good. Share personal stories with others. It prevents suicide because you know what someone else went through. We share personal stories about diabetes, about losing weight, about beating cancer. But somebody can't share their story about mental health and how they overcame those thoughts and feelings, how they still may battle with it every single day, but because of the God they serve and the support that they get, that they are making it through every day. Because isn't that what sin is? Don't you battle sin every day? Are you ill? But you can still be healthy while going through illness. Studies show that when people are suicidal, they are often ambivalent and torn between the desire to live or die. If they're still alive, they haven't made the choice, which means you have a choice to speak to it. You won't have that choice when they're gone. You won't have it when they're gone. So the fact that they are still here means they're still battling. Yo, we use the same context with the Word of God, don't we? Oh, at the very end, he gave his heart to the Lord. Because they have until the very end. It's the same concept. So let's speak to it so we can make sure they stay here as long as possible. Suicide can happen to someone you know. Everybody, oh, it'll never happen. No, what? We've already heard some stories of people who know those who have died by suicide. Based on statistics, there's a lot more of us than you think that have either attempted or thought of it ourselves. Right here in the room. 1.4 million Americans attempted suicide. Over 47,000 Americans die by suicide. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. The second most common death, ages 16 to 34, and the fourth most common death among 35 to 54. You're wondering where your young people are. They are dying by suicide. And you sitting here trying to do a revival. You sitting here like, oh, what can we do to get the young people back? We're going to talk about it. But a Bible study ain't it. Bible study ain't it. Because mental health is tied to prevention and protective factors. Bible study by itself is not a protective factor. Ooh. Ooh. Let's sit there. It can come and be an implementation or an intervention, but it has to come along with something that is a protective factor, so that way the person who you're working with identifies that as something that can protect them. But you walk up to me and I'm blind and say, can I give you a Bible study? I still need glasses. So even if you get me to your church to do the Bible study, and I'm blind, I'm going to hear you. But at the end of the day, I'm going to ask myself, what did I get while I was here? Because I'm still blind. How long do I need to come before I can see? The music is amazing. The preaching is great. The sound system is going. It's not too cold. It's not too hot. And everybody is gorgeous. Too bad I can't see them, though. So we have to think about that when we talk about what ministry beyond the walls looks like for mental health and suicide. Suicide in the church. 23% of pastors acknowledge that they have struggled with a mental illness themselves. 49% of pastors say they rarely or never speak to their congregations about mental health or illness. 65% of church-going family members of those with mental health wish that their church would actually talk about it openly, because they coming in there, putting on a mask and going home being humans in hell. But they had a good potluck. That music sounded good. Anybody like me, if I miss praise team, I'm teetering. So I was like, I'm there. So they like, it's good. But listen, they going home to be humans in hell after being heroes in the hospital. 76% of churchgoers say suicide is a problem that needs to be addressed. 32% of churchgoers say a close acquaintance or family member has died by suicide. But yet, we don't speak the word of it. We don't touch it. We don't support it. We don't invest in it. So when we think about what are signs and symptoms, what are the factors that go into thinking about suicide or dying by suicide? There are many, all right? But when we think about certain specific mental disorders, when we think about family history, so even those who are the survivors of suicide, we got to wrap our arms around them. They are more than 50% more likely to also die by suicide. Y'all up here talking about what the statistics are of a single mother having a kid and that next generation having a kid. Listen, they bring it in life. This is going to take somebody out. But we want to preach and talk about that. When we talk about barriers to accessing mental health treatment, the stigma that surrounds it. When we talk about the unwillingness to seek help because of the stigma. Isolation and feeling like being cut off from other people. So these are different reasons why. These are different reasons why. And we talked about this continuum, right? We talked about this continuum. And so now, when we get to the idea of suicide in the church, and you're wondering, what can I do? What shall I do? The first thing is to validate the pain. Y'all, this whole idea of, oh, no, don't do that, don't think that, no, you are loved. No, that's not true, no. Just, because that's not their reality. So now you've created an environment where they can't even speak to what it is that you asked them to speak about, because now they're liars. Validate the pain. Validate the pain. Allow them to get it out. whatever it may be. And whether they are getting it out the pain or whether they simply just want to bask in the moment, silence is golden. If you don't know what to say, by all means, don't say a thing. If I can't say a word, I'll just wave my hand. Same thing. Same thing in mental health. Can't say a word, just wave your hands, pat them on the back, say a prayer. Okay? And you want to be specific and just ask the question. You're going to say that word, suicide. We've all been in a situation where you kind of like, I've been sad before, but this just feels a little different with this person right here, or even within yourself. Ask the question. Have you thought about suicide? That's the question. Have you thought about suicide? This sounds like you're going through a lot. I'm sorry to hear that. Have you thought about suicide? And pause. And allow the answer to come however it's going to come. And be unshockable. No. Be unshockable. Stand in knowing that the answer may be yes. So therefore your response cannot be, because then that creates that, this is awkward. They close back up. So the church needs to prepare themselves to know that there are people who are walking in and out of the church house of God every week, every day, who are going through these battles. So therefore, you cannot be shocked. Okay? Practice it. Practice it. I'm going to get to you. And so while they're talking to them, you want to get details. And you want to get details in a conversational matter. We're not grilling them. Oh, really? Not really. Sometimes just, I don't know, it's just not, I don't know. Not really, no. Well, have you ever thought about just not waking up? Maybe it's, never really thought about dying by suicide, but have you ever thought about just, what if I just didn't wake up? It's a better question, an easier question to ask. Yeah, I have. What if you had to choose how you wouldn't wake up? Have you thought about how you would choose how you wouldn't wake up? There's this bridge. My mom does have a gun. That's intent. That's a way to get it. We're checking off boxes here. You're understanding what could happen. And it may be, no, not really. I don't really know how, but I just know if I couldn't, that does sound nice. Okay. But after they say whatever it is, as far as have you thought about it, and they have something, you want to make sure to be able to eliminate and decrease their access to whatever it is that they just mentioned. I'm taking you home. You ain't going past that bridge. Oh, mom has a gun. We're going to have a loving conversation with her. Make sure that it's put away, it's locked, and all those things, because that is her right to have a gun. But we want to make sure that it's in a space that is safe and that whoever is around can't get it. Okay? Grandma takes medication. That medication is good for grandma, but it's bad for somebody else. We need to make sure we tell, hey, grandma, let's lock up that medication. We're having a rough time here. Okay? These are the things we want to talk about. So we're not saying things are a secret, because you can't promise that. But what you can promise is that you will support them in finding help. I'm going to ask because, I want to make sure that I'm here, that we can find you some support. I can't promise I keep it a secret, because then if you're gone, I can't share my secret with you. So, forgive me for being selfish. I want to keep you around. Because there's people who actually spent lots of years in school just to help you. That's how important you are. That there's a whole category, a whole degree just for you. Right? But you have to, as the church, know about those resources. So if you don't know about those resources, then how are you going to help? All you can do is pray. You can't wait until it arrives. You got to leave here today figuring out what we doing, how we going to have a mental health ministry, how we going to get a resource together. We need a booklet. Who's our community partners? Because that's when it comes to, we're just going to bring them down and pray. Because we weren't ready. The whole point of having a fire extinguisher is not because you want a fire, but if it comes, I want to know how to put it out. We have to know how to put out these fires of mental health and suicide. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
As mandated reporters, do you report every time they express that they want to kill themselves? Is there a fine line?
So if you're a mandated reporter, one, there should have been a level of training in regards to like certain questions and check boxes, right? Because there is something as far as like they should be on a treatment plan. So if we're going to the clinical, the first time that they do it, we're going to be talking about it. We're going to measure their level of actual possibility of dying by suicide or attempting. And then after that, determine if they're going to be on a care plan. If they're on a care plan, after that, yeah, you have a network, right? So it shouldn't be like I don't know what you guys have everywhere, but 696 or anything like that. It should be whoever is already in their care plan. So we're talking to whoever their doctor assigned was. We're telling their clinician. So we're not necessarily reporting it. Please don't. We're not reporting it to 911 anymore. There's a nationwide thing. 988 741 741 is the text line. So we're not calling 911. So to that, I would say some regard, yes. But if somebody is repeatedly saying it, they should be on a plan. And if as a mandated reporter, that's the avenue that you would work with them to get on. So that way the reporting would go to the multi-systemic group that's already a part of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'm just talking about like for the first time you hear someone say that.
So,
Children, especially some children, they say, just like they say, I want to kill myself, or they say, I hate you, whether you don't know whether they're just saying it because that's the only language they can in their minds of how they're feeling at the moment. Do they really mean it? You know what I'm saying? So there's something you have to continue the conversation.
Yeah, I would definitely, especially when we're talking about little kids, you definitely want to continue a conversation. You want to ask them more about that. You want to apologize as an adult, even if they just cussed you out and said, I hate you. If after they cuss you out and say, I hate you and I want to kill myself, at that point, any disrespect that you feel needs to go away. Because their life is more important than respect. Woo. Which means now I'm not even talking about the fact that you just cussed me out and said, I hate you. I'm talking about, you want to kill? Now, are you mad right now because of what just happened? Or do you really feel that way? Because even though we argue and I'm pretty upset, I still need you to be around. I need you to go to your room and be around, but I still want you around. So, like, for real, don't say, like, let me know. They're like, oh, no, man, I just hate you. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, bye. You know what I'm saying? Continue that conversation, especially for, like, those young ones. Okay, yes.
I happen to know a family member who talked about suicide. When life gets really hard, not knowing what to do, that's what comes up. So it becomes a running thing with that family member. And it's like, what do you do? Because I don't know that family member would want us to get out because that's the default thing for her. Kill myself. And she had stated how she's gonna walk into the ocean and just keep going. And that's the only that's what she has said previously how she would kill herself. She said, "You want to go to the ocean? I'm going to drink something, take me."
Okay.
How do you help something like that?
So in this regard, it's about identifying resources and connecting them. Listen, y'all want to know something? Jesus ain't about to force us to be saved. He's just going to give us the tools and the resources and the love to know that if we want to be saved, it is there. It is not your duty to save a life. It is your duty to support one to live. And if they make the conscious choice that they are not going to engage in that support, if they make the conscious choice that they feel as things are just too much to bear, that is not on you. It's the same concept in spirituality, correct? So we're not walking away and not giving resources, which is why we have to do our homework and we have to be prepared with what the resources are in our local community and beyond. But we're not taking over that. We're not taking on that burden. You don't deserve that burden. That burden is not yours to carry. And I say in the name of Jesus, is anybody in here carrying that burden because they have lost somebody by suicide? It is not your fault. It is not. It is not your fault.
You mentioned to call 988.
Yes. So 988 is the national hotline for anyone to call, and they can talk to someone who is trained in mental health. So it's like literally like how you dial 911, it's just 988, that's it. So the text is 741-741.
And what would they do that we can't do?
Well, they're clinical people, so they're able to, they're trained, they're able to engage them in conversation, they're able to also identify the level of risk just through the conversation based off of what they've been trained to ask, and they're also able to link them to resources, okay? And they'll also do checkups sometimes. I've texted just to see how it works before I tell people to do it, like, hello, and they text you right back. It's really cool, yes.
Yeah, they're first responders.
Correct.
And they're clinicians. And they have the skills and they're capable of addressing all of the issues. And one of the aspects that they want to learn is your name, your location, your family members, and then let them talk. And then you integrate.
And they do a very good job of making it conversational. So when you're texting, it's not like, it's like, oh, hey, Amy here. What's going on? You gave us a text? Like, it's very, I was like, hi, Amy. Sade. Seems like you're having a hard time, Sade. What's going on? All in text. Yes.
I know you focus on the younger people, but I'm looking at somebody older
Please.
in my community, and this is for real. Visiting my neighbor. I noticed the ambulance came the night before. Didn't take anybody out, which was great. So I'm checking next morning, and the husband is leaving. How was your wife? Oh, she fell last night. She's fine. So I knock on the door, I go in, and she is in poor shape. She looks horrible. But, oh, I'm fine. Let me show you where I fell last night. And it's a carpeted, flat area. You don't fall and have bruises all over your body on a flat area like that. Even if you tumble, like you're told, then, it didn't match.
Yeah.
So I sit down with her for a second, trying to have a conversation. And the first thing I did, before I did all of that, I sent her lunch, because I realized that maybe she's hungry. And she said, thank you, I haven't eaten since 4 o'clock yesterday. So we sit down, who is the family, who are you closest to? Not what's going on, but who are you closest to? And then halfway through the conversation, she grabbed me, she's crying, but she's telling me everything that makes it seem as if everything is okay. This has been going on for 10 years, but I'm okay. It's been 10 years, but my children, they don't want me to get involved in all this. I am scared, I'm almost 83, what do I do?
The population, the elderly population as well as men are actually highest for when it comes to death by suicide. Many times for the elderly, because of the fact they're elderly, can't really tell. But that's a whole other statistic in research, right? But the concept is the same. As far as identifying resources. What are the resources that are available and giving it to them? And being able to work on our own trauma and level of needing to be the superhero and recognizing that as long as we're able to connect them to that resource, calling 9888 right then, texting 741-741 for them right then while you're there, and figuring those things out. And that's the biggest thing. But the other thing is talking about it, right? When we talk about the elderly community, they're at the last years where you're thinking about your life, what are you leaving behind. It's a lot, you know. But we want to make sure that we're talking about these things and we have predetermined resources and we're inviting professionals to the church. No one is asking you to be the professional. Please leave it to us, okay? We appreciate it, okay? It's okay. Let me finish and then I'll take questions at the end. So when we talk about investing in servicing the entire person with ministry beyond the walls, because we have to recognize that whatever they're going through, your friend's going through, whatever somebody's going through, it has very little to do with what's happening for 2 hours inside the sanctuary. So if our entire church budget is on what happens for 2 hours once a week, my golly. You sitting down there and your entire budget is based on Saturday and Wednesday. You have to invest in servicing the entire person with ministry beyond the walls. And that's the people in the pew, because the people in the pew are a part of the community, but also those who aren't in the pews yet but need to be there, but they're not coming because you're too busy investing in 4 hours out of the week and spending good money and still asking and praying for more. Come on. All right? So, your ministry is prevention. What is suicide prevention? Your ministry. Yeah. Oh, am I missing a slide? I missed a slide. Your ministry is prevention. That's right. Scan it, text it. When we say your ministry is prevention, that means there's a grant for that. Tell me, what ministry do you have at your church? Any of them. Just start naming them. Prison ministry, there's a prison program. Prison department. Women's ministry, there's a women's program, women's department. Children's ministry, there's children development, youth development. Food pantry, there's food insecurity. Somebody coming to you asking you for rent every day, every month, and you taking up an offering. There's housing. Your ministry is prevention. Because the reason why they are so distraught is not because of what happens for 2 hours on Saturday. It's because of what happens 24/7 any other time. And it has to do with their home, their mental health, their food, their children, their family, their education, their job and economic mobility. And none of that is in your budget. How can the church help with suicide prevention? Investing in community. Being intentional about investing in things that support ministry beyond the walls. I dare somebody to go look at your budget when you get home and see how many dollars are allocated outside of the 2 hours on Saturday. And then send me a text and tell me I'm wrong. And so when we start talking about these things and the fact that there are literal dollars, the federal government has a faith-based department. The federal government has recognized that before they come and see me and him and sit in our chair, they showing up on the pews. That stigma that nobody wants to talk about, that hero mask, it shows up to church before they show up to the doctor, before they show up to get their GED, before they show up. And so they have literally made a whole department that funds your ministry. But you're using all the money for 2 hours on Sabbath. So suicide prevention, we talk about grants, and what's happening is, since you're not going for it, that organization, I want to roll now. They got me in my sweet spot. That organization that is not you, they said, well, if them church people ain't going to apply for this, let me go ahead and hire a chaplain for about $50,000 a year and apply for this $10 million. So now you're sitting there like, oh, how was Goodwill ever able to do this? Oh, they got a whole faith department. They got a chaplain because you're not going for it. Funding their entire programs and ministries. We're sitting here taking donations, begging for them. Continue to take them. Youth development, when we talk about violence prevention, y'all, if there's one thing about Adventism, we are the most organized, unorganized people I've ever met, all right? Can't nobody touch us on organization, even on our worst day when it comes to curriculum, how we have things set together. I mean, it looks good to the world because everybody else is chaos. I'm going to tell you right now, I use that community, NAD, community development, whole curriculum that they got on the website. I used that the other day, got us some money. I mean, it was laid out. I thought I was going to have to make it up myself. I said, oh, wait, my faith already got this together about how it is that you can use community. They've already provided all the resources for us within our denomination that many people, other people don't have, but the problem is we're using it on ourselves, or it's just sitting there collecting dust. So the question is, we have to ask ourselves, are you going to invest in someone in your church learning how to do it, or are you just going to invest in somebody doing it for you? But grants save lives, period. That's literally what funds. The government, your states have faith-based departments at the state level, specifically for you. Please.
There needs to be a change in the mindset.
Tell me.
In terms of requesting grants from the government.
Yes.
Because many Sunday Adventists are often believing that if we accept...
Say it louder for the people in the back. Please say it louder.
If we accept grants from the government, we are aligning ourselves with the mark of the beast, or that we're encouraging Babylon to be a part of our church.
She said Babylon. She
And
said
as a result, a lot of our churches do not take advantage of those resources that can help our members as well do great work within our community and glorify God at the same time. So we have to do some training and just help people to unlearn some of what they have been taught for so long.
beautiful. Yes, she's right, because clap. Look at you. Okay, I'm in the right room. Thank you. Because when we think about that, they know it's called faith-based department for the federal government. They know you are faith. They know you have your stipulations and what you believe. That's why what they offer you, the funding and the grants that we can go for, has nothing to do with who you're going to hire. It has about who you're going to serve. And if you don't want to serve, then you don't need a grant. Nobody's telling you have to hire. No one's telling you have to promote. Someone is saying, if they are hungry, will you feed them? If they are thirsty and we give you money, will you allow them to drink? And if your answer is no, then I don't want to be at your church anyway. And that's a whole nother conversation. Yes.
Yeah, I want to speak to her comment. Here's what will help education. Somebody came to our church, I don't even know who it was, and talked about all the money that our institutions, Adventist institutions, get from the government. And they ran it down. Oakwood gets this, and they get that. Money from the government, they've been getting for years. So if we're Babylon because of that, we should have burned up a long time ago. That one presentation fixed everybody.
Oh,
I mean, it fixed everybody.
good.
And like you said, the government, the good thing about the government, they're transparent. They will tell you what they want you to do, and if you don't want to do it, it's all you have to do is say no thanks, because there's somebody else to do it. But yeah, that one presentation cured our whole church of that you don't somehow the government's gonna come and take you over. Or whatever.
Listen, me and the government, we real cool. I got a contact. I'm like, hello, how you doing today, Susie? Yeah, we're out here, serving the community. Yeah, $4.5 million in less than 3 years. First-time grants. Church that has 12 members and no building, $200,000. Why? Because they're in the community. Because they're in the community. They have a community garden program. They're talking about the health message. But what you do? You doing your capital campaign for what? What you gonna do after you, what? I'm sorry, I get excited. Go ahead, this one, you here, ma'am, just because she was first, yes.
Yes, they do have grants for the state and federal government and county
Yeah, and
that
foundations,
you can
yeah.
apply for.
But
You have to be careful because there are stipulations
Yeah, we
that
discussed
you
that.
must follow.
We discussed that. We discussed that. Just like there's stipulations for everything, and we have choice, and we read, and we're educated because we have how many schools, and we learned well. And so we're going to review those things and make sure that they align with our mission and with our community. And especially when we're going for things that specifically say for faith-based organizations. The government is not, they know what people believe, so they're looking for things just for you. Just for you. And so, when we talk about what prevention is, because I do want to, we have what, this is 45, right? We got 5 minutes. I got 5 minutes. And so when we think about what can I do to support my community for mental health, for suicide awareness, for any and everything, the answer is to go home at your next board meeting, have your treasurer read your report, and align how many dollars are allotted outside of 2 hours on Saturday. Because you are not the professional, but you have someone in your church who is. So it's not saying you have to now align with Babylon and get somebody from the outside coming in, but what does it look like for the doctor that's there every Saturday to finally get a little stipend for actually providing a service because y'all want to call them up? What does it look like for the therapist that's there every Saturday to now have an in-church office where she comes once a week, twice a week, and opens up the door? What does it look like for the educator who's retired and don't know what to do but want to do something to run your after-school program because they're an expert in it and can bring all those literacy grades up? What does that look like? But it's not in your budget because it's outside of the 2 hours of church. But that is prevention. That is ministry beyond the walls. And you get paid for it. You're getting the money back. So, remember, don't be shocked. Talk with them. Show them love and support. Become educated. Your budget can't change tomorrow. So some of y'all are like, well, I don't got nothing to do with that. Your budget can't change tomorrow. But what can change is you Googling and figuring out what resources are available in your area. Talking with someone to figure out how to put a brochure together so that way you're giving things, perfect timing. You're giving things to people that have it. You know those cards about baptism? What if you added on the bottom of there, in need of mental health services? Because now you're partnering with someone. Huh, in need of. But you can't ask that question if you haven't done your research to know who you can refer them to, because I need it not to be the elder, the deacon, or somebody who just has a good heart in the Lord. And you can't do that if you're only investing in the 2 hours on Saturday. We have some information for you all so that you guys can know. Can you help me pass it out too? I can. I know there's maybe a lot of questions, but I also want to honor the time. As a PK, I'm usually the one sitting in the audience telling my dad, like, okay. But I do want to take a few questions. If you want to get more information, we're going to give you one of these pamphlets. It has the information on there. It talks about the wonderful things that people have been able to do that are all faith organizations, prison ministry, after-school program. One organization in less than 3 years has received over $800,000. Went from being doing it volunteer and now gets a full-time salary and has 12 staff for the after-school program.
If I may say something.
Give me one more second because there's a line, so I want to respect the line. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. First, before, because I got my cheerleaders over here because I'm glad, but I do want to know if there's any questions that I can clear up. Just because, are there any questions? And then I'm gonna come back to my cheerleading section because I need y'all. Okay, so we're back on. Let's go. That means everybody is clear-minded and in tune. Go ahead.
I want to take a macro look at what you just said.
Okay.
We need to do it differently.
Okay.
We have in the Adventist Church a group called PSI, Philanthropic Services Institute. You know what they do? They raise money historically for Adventist colleges and Adventist health institutions. I've gone to their conferences and they are excellent. But for a long time, and Michael Brown's the director now, Ryan Hilton, I've said the churches need that office to point to. Look, let's face it, most of our churches have common issues. Health, rent, it's common. So if we have all these churches with common issues, why do we need to go looking like for a needle in a haystack? Rather than have the office who is in our church, our world church, who raises funds and looks for money.
Oh.
Yeah. And Pastor Hurst may get in this, but I look at that. It's like we always put the burden on the member or the church when we've got resources at the top levels of our church.
Yeah.
Who, if they were so inclined, and maybe we need to have a
I'm going to say,
conversation.
because it goes to who's to incline them. You are. And it goes back to your conference level.
Well,
If the conference
even
level.
with that, what I'm saying is, though, and I'd be happy to do this, it should be easier, much easier for churches to do what you're talking to do in 2023 than it was 10 years ago. Why? Because we have resources and people who can be paid to do something to help the churches. I get so annoyed sometimes with this churches lift yourself up on your bootstrap stuff. When this world church or NAD, this building in which we sit, has money and has means to help churches come up a lot faster in these areas.
Yeah.
I don't know who needs to be a part of that conversation, but I sure would like to be a part of that panel because the money is here. We don't have to do it the way we've done it the last 20 years.
I think we got a panel for next year, man.
Yeah. I would say, as a pastor who gets a number of fundings from the church, from this building,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
it's about making relationships.
Uh-huh.
And the world is about relationships.
Yeah.
You have a great idea. He has a great idea. You're gonna present your ideas to me, the funder. And guess what? Who I know and who I believe in is gonna get the money. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is.
Oh,
So you gotta build relationships. That's the way it is.
And part of building relationships means that you have proof of concept. So before the relationship comes also because you can share that I've been doing this. I'm not coming to, if somebody comes to you and says, can you give me money for a car? And you're gonna ask them, well, do you have your license? No, I'm waiting to get a car. Wait, so do you have like insurance? I'm waiting to get the car. Have you driven before? No, I'm waiting to get the car. Well, no, I'm not about to give you the car because you have not prepared. And so part of it is investing in at least some concept of ministry to say, when I come to provide my program, we have 1,001 ideas, but this one right here, this is the one that our church is going to be known for now. So that's what we're going to be presenting, saying, hey, we've been doing this now for a year, for 6 months. We've been able to serve 300 families. We've been doing it on our own, but we would love it if you would support us with 10 grand because this is what we've been able to do on this amount. Imagine what we could do if we had that. Those are the types of conversations that you want to start and make. I know, but I got the timer, and then, well, listen, go ahead.
Got $50,000 from the North American Division for a community health initiative through our pastor, like
That's
he was
beautiful.
saying. Other churches were like, how did you find out about that? Where was that? And all of that. See, That's what I'm saying. The churches have common tracks of ministry. And if our church, which we did have a track record, but what I'm saying is, with all the churches, there's got to be a better response. It shouldn't have been, oh, how did you get it? I don't know. Our pastor talked to somebody, he had a relationship. That's good. But if all of our churches are to get ready to meet Jesus and do it well, we can do it better than we have been doing it.
I don't work for the church, so I'm going to tell you. The information is public record, and it is discussed in public forums that every leader within your conference and church is required or invited to attend. What happens after they leave, whether it is funneled down, is not the responsibility of this building or this entity. That is on that leadership and who they had attend. So, I don't have nothing to do with that. My time is up. And if you want to support suicide awareness and prevention and mental health, invest outside of the 2 hours of Saturday. I leave you with you. I'm about to go down there.
I think Pastor Hurst can back me up. One of the things that we may need to look at our next year is the role of grant writing in helping to do this.
Yes.
And I want to nominate that Sade Hollins comes back and
If that's all right, go ahead and put your hands together in the name of the Lord. All right, all right.
but seriously, thank you. No, that's so moving.
Thank you, thank you.
I'm ready for the question.
Put in the book, stop.
Thank you,
Thank you.
for
Thank you, guys.
enthusiastically sharing with us our need to minister outside of the 2 hours and outside of the wall.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Recognizing that there is hurting everywhere, not just within the wall,
Yeah,
but outside of the wall.
yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, Pastor, for having me.
You're welcome.